Hi, everyone. It's Steve here with my wonderful friend Kevin. How you doing, Kevin?
Good, Steve. It's so great to be here with you, buddy.
Oh, it's always fun. Uh, so we're doing things a little bit different than usual. First being that we're doing this video during the day, which we don't often do. Usually it's in the evenings. Second is we just thought we'd try something different. In particular on my end, as you can see from the background, I am not in my yard. I actually wish it were my yard, but it's not. It's in the foothills, not far from where I live, and it's just a beautiful day here in Colorado. I'm going to give you a quick panorama so you can see the beauty of the area here that I am blessed to immerse myself in from time to time. Anyway, we just thought we'd do something different. So I'm walking along a path, which is something that's not uncommon for Kevin and I to do. When he comes out to visit, we've spoken of our annual spiritual retreat up at the cabin. This is what we spend a great deal of time doing, is just being out in nature and hiking and doing exactly what I'm doing now. And now I'm doing it with Kevin too, which is all the more fun.
Nice.
So anyway, all that being said, today's topic of conversation is kind of a prelude to our meetup on the 18th of September, the subject of which is reincarnation. And yeah, and so we both have our ideas on reincarnation, what it is, what it's about, what are various aspects of it. They differ in some places. And Kevin in particular, I feel, has some real interesting takes and also some experiences related to reincarnation. So
Steve, watch out, buddy. Excuse me.
Oops, thank you.
Steve, watch out.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay, I was afraid that was going to happen. There are other people that like to use this trail besides just me. Unfair as that seems. Anyway, I'm going to go to a place on the trail where it's a little wider, so if people need to get by me, they don't need to push me off the trail to do it. So anyway, I'm going to start off, Kevin, by asking you to just tell me a little bit about your take on reincarnation. How do you see it? How does it fit into our spiritual path and the shift, if you may apply that?
Yeah. Well, I think that reincarnation is a basic building block of my spiritual belief system, and it was something that I researched and came to believe in as a truth in myself very early on in my spiritual path. And I say maybe 10, 15 years ago when I really started moving along this path. My belief is that we choose the lives that we are living now, that we do it with the help and assistance of our spirit group that agrees to play different roles in our lives as we agree to play roles in their lives as well. And that occurs in the spirit realm before we actually reincarnate into our physical being in this particular life. And so it's a very important aspect to me to understand then other aspects of the shift. And so it really is a key component, as I assume it is with you, isn't it, Steve?
It is. It's kind of a basic underpinning or tenet associated with both of our omni-world view, in that it's part of why we experience what we experience in this life now. And so it's worth understanding, at least to some extent, because we may scratch our heads and wonder why we feel the way we do about things or respond the way we do. And I think that past lives can go a long way towards explaining that. Not entirely, but it's certainly some tips that you can pick up along the way that may help you understand it.
Yeah, and I also think, Steve, that's a really good point that you're making, that I think we bring into present life experience aspects of past lives that can either be beneficial or they can actually be challenges that we need to overcome in this life. And we're presented with those aspects in order to, the negative ones at least, in order to overcome it as we go through life after life until we do, because it's really all about soul evolution that we're here. And I think that's also a key component of reincarnation. and one of the reasons why we reincarnate as human beings as opposed to animals or other beings on other planets or beings in other dimensions and things like that.
Yeah, good. Do you think that karma, the concept of karma, plays into this multiple lifetimes and past and future lifetimes? Do you think that that's all attached and part of the same thing?
It's interesting. I used to be a big believer in karma, and I'm not as much anymore. My belief system has shifted a little bit to think that any experience that we have in the human realm is there to teach us a particular lesson. Sometimes that lesson is the opposite lesson of something that we've learned in a previous lifetime, such as, I hate to be gruesome, but in terms of killing somebody in a previous lifetime, and then in this lifetime, learning what it's like to be killed, which other people would look at as being karma. I look at it more as being a life lesson that needs to be learned, or maybe not. So I think karma is a little bit of dogma that comes in from some of the Eastern religions that I'm not wholly connected to. But what about you? Do you put more emphasis on karma than I do?
Well, I think it's much as you had said. It's really just kind of taking a more focused look at what your soul is trying to accomplish through its multiple lifetimes, which is a balance of experience. And I think that's what karma is essentially about, is providing your soul with a myriad of experiences, but as being a victim, as being a perpetrator, as being someone who is strong and successful and someone who is weak and debilitated. All these add color and experience to the soul's entire view of existence. And I think karma plays into that in providing you with these different perspectives, different lifetimes that give you that broadness, or give the soul that broadness of experience.
But isn't it the ego really that wants to say, hey, you did something bad, and so something bad needs to happen to you? And that's the ego talking, I think. And I think you and I both agree that that's not really the way it works so much.
Yeah, I agree. I think from the soul's perspective, there isn't a good and a bad, a right and a wrong. There's just experience, and there's this wide spectrum of experiences that the soul wants to have, and this is one of the ways that it accomplishes that.
Yeah, and I would say maybe not wants to have, but maybe needs to have in order to evolve properly.
Exactly. Yeah, good. Well, so Kevin, I know that you have spent more time than I have working with facilitators to help you tap into some of your past lives. And yeah. I think you call those past life regressions. And I wonder if you could share some of your experience with that and what you've gotten from those experiences.
Yeah, it's been really interesting, Steve. I started out by really wanting to have a life between lives experience to see what it was like to be, what types of things occur in the soul realm. And in looking for that, I found somebody that actually started out by giving me a past life regression. That was my first real experience with that. And it was at a time of my life, Steve, where I was extremely lonely. I was really far along, I believe, on my spiritual path. And there was nobody except you to talk to, and I was only seeing you once a year, and it wasn't enough for me to feel like I was connecting with everybody. I now believe that I do connect with everyone on a spiritual level, but I needed more affirmation of that. And so that was part of the reason why I was going into the trying to find out what that experience was like. And I was regressed. It wound up being an amazing experience. I came up with 4 or 5 different lifetime experiences, past life experiences, all of which had the key component of loneliness associated with them. And what I found at the end of that experience, of that regression, was that my loneliness had abated significantly. Secondarily, I went to a past life regression. I've always had a little bit of a claustrophobia issue, and in a past life regression that I was just doing for fun, I was actually regressed back to a time where I was in Pompeii, and I witnessed myself being buried alive by volcanic dust, and realizing that that was the source of my claustrophobia in this life. And it was amazing. After that regression session, I no longer had claustrophobia. I was especially experiencing it on planes in the past, and now it doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't matter where I sit, whatever. Most of the past lives I've done since then, past life regressions, have been for fun and enjoyment and experience. And but I do believe that there's a significant therapeutical benefit from past life regression, and I'm thankful that when people seek that out, because I think it can really help them cases.
Great. Yeah, you're a great example of someone who's been able to positively benefit their life by making use of access to these past lives to help you understand and connect with these things that happened outside of your purview in this lifetime. So that's great to see that you've been able to do that, and hopefully others can be encouraged to do the same thing.
Yeah, Steve, you've had a couple of experiences, not seemingly so direct as a hypnosis session with a past life regression, but you've had a little bit of experience with that too, haven't you?
I have. It's been more from the perspective of having channeled sessions, um, reintegration of my broken aspects and whatnot, where some of my past life experiences were brought into the conversation because they played a role in issues that I was working through. And so while it wasn't specifically for the purpose of doing a regression to a particular lifetime or whatnot, these things have come forth. For instance, one example is that I had in a channeling session was, so I have a hearing loss in this lifetime, as some of you may know. And typically when you have some kind of issue like this, that I wasn't born with it, but it started out at a very young age. And it's typical, I'd say, that what I've heard is that there are other lifetimes that played into this particular condition. It could be many other conditions. There could be fear of fire or water, various fears or ununderstood responses to circumstances. In any case, this is one that has apparently had a number of past lives, but there was one lifetime where I was a knight in shining armor, to just kind of place the time frame. And I was in a battle, and I was about to be slain. So a adversary knocked me to the ground. Of course, I was in full armor and I couldn't get up. And my adversary wanted to disable me, so I couldn't get up and put up a fight. So what he did was he took his ball and chain and whacked me on my tin can helmet. And it was a huge, enormous, deafening blow to have this thing against that helmet, and that caused a traumatic experience just prior to me being run through with a sword. So all this in that same several moments of a lifetime carried through. And so anyway, that's just an example of past lifetime that plays into this one. There are others as well. So anyway, that's just an example from my perspective.
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting. And my experience with the past lives as well has been, I've never remembered a particular life that's anybody famous. Mine have all been humble people. I was actually a knight as well in old Ireland, guarding a castle, and I was in a tower. This is one of the loneliness past lives. And my job was essentially to keep the oil hot to pour on people if they tried to storm the castle. But I was there by myself day in and day out, and it was a lonely existence. and I couldn't see my family, and my family lived very close by. And it was just, but it validated what feeling I had going into that particular session.
Yeah, what a job. You know, it's bad enough to be lonely, but the only time that you really have any action is when the bad guys come and you got to dump some boiling oil on them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh
I guess
my
they get
God.
better jobs. I think this lifetime has probably treated you a little better, wouldn't you say?
A little bit, yes. Yeah, the only oil I use now is to cook food in. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
there you go. All right, to try not to let this meander on too long, I just wanted to ask you briefly about your experience with life between lives, because that seems to be a significant tool or aspect of our spiritual existence that we could potentially make use of that people don't normally think of. They think of, the previous lifetimes, if that, and how that could be useful. But apparently there's this time between lifetimes that could also be very helpful because the planning sessions take place there. Maybe you can tell us a little more about that and your experience with it.
Well, just to be honest here, I don't have experience with it. I've never ultimately gotten really a life between lives session formally, but Michael Newton's books, Destiny of Souls, really speaks to me, was very important to my journey, my spiritual journey. And there's a lot of discussion in his books about what happens in those in-between lives. I do believe that those are important aspects to delve into, especially when we have problems. But I'm in a point in my life, Steve, where I no longer am searching for that. And that's not to say that it's not important for a number of people. Really now about living my life in the fullest possible way, and with the spiritual philosophy that I've gathered over the years. And so I don't really see necessarily a need for me to be that. So thanks for asking, but I don't have much to add to that. Except that I have gotten in touch with my higher self through channeling sessions, and that higher self is really connected to the spirit realm. And so, if you're asking about those in-between lives, I can't answer too much about that, but connection to my higher self has been something that's been very important, and it's this fun entity called Jurgen, which we may or may not talk about.
Yeah, I'm tempted to get into that because it's a very interesting story, the whole thing about Jurgen, but I'm afraid that's going to take us outside of the scope of what we really want to cover here.
Yes.
I guess one thing to bring up, though, is that Jurgen is a higher aspect of Kevin that I have actually led Kevin into a regression to talk to, as well as he's done this with other people as well. But Jurgen, just to give you a high level, in the questions that I asked of Jurgen while Kevin was in this regressed state, Jurgen told me that Kevin and I have spent many lifetimes together, which we don't find any surprise because we're so close. It was like, we're brothers from many lifetimes. So anyway, we'll talk about that again in another conversation because it's really interesting also.
I agree.
So anyway,
well, let me
anything?
throw it back to you, Steve. The in-between state, the spirit realm. We both are big believers that is that's an important aspect to the particular life that you've chosen to lead in as a human being. Do you have anything more to add about the spirit realm?
Well, there are a number of aspects that I'd like to talk about that I just don't think we're going to have time. For instance, our soul families and how we repeatedly incarnate with various people. They could be friends, they could be adversaries, and actually someone could volunteer. Someone within our soul group could volunteer to be an adversary, that business partner that ends up cheating you, or
someone who kills you.
Actually. Someone that killed you, exactly. And back back in the between lives planning, these are your best buddies, and these are the only ones that love you so much that they're willing to take on these really unsavory roles. And it would be nice to delve into that conversation as well, but I just don't see us as having time for that right now.
I think we'll do that at a later date, Steve, where we can talk really pretty in depth about the soul realm,
Yeah,
because we both have a lot to say about that.
right. Okay, well, so I think that we'll wrap it up here.
Okay.
And not tax people too long to listen to a long, drawn out video. But we will look forward to those who happen to be in Kevin's neck of the woods and are going to participate in the meetup. We look forward to covering this subject more with you, as well as people on the Facebook page that don't happen to be in Kevin's neck of the woods. We'd love to hear your thoughts and questions and experiences. What are things that puzzle you about past lives that don't make sense to you, that maybe some other people on the site could shine some light on? So feel free to throw in your comments and questions and converse on it.
Yeah, I would say too that sometimes you may not think something's from a past life, but any sense of deja vu that you've ever had, any sense that you've gone to a brand new place and it feels like home to you, or anytime you've met somebody and you feel immediate connection with you, it's like, I know this person deeply and you just met them. Those could all potentially be the result of past life experience. And so if you've experienced anything like that, we'd love to hear. It's fun. It's fun to talk about stuff.
It is. Those are all good points, and we'd love to flesh those out and go down each of those rabbit holes and off on those tangents, and because there's so much fun stuff to explore. But anyway, I guess we'll leave it at that for now. So thanks so much, Kevin, for answering all my questions and humoring me with the answers.
And then thank you, Steve, for not getting hit by any bicyclists or joggers during this.
Yeah, I came pretty close. I appreciate that. I decided to find a wide swath of path that I could stand off to the side, so they didn't have to push me to the side in order to make their way by.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So great spending this time. It was nice to be outside and doing it, and we'll do this again sometime. So thank you all, everyone listening in, for joining us for this, and we look forward to connecting with you again in the near future.
Absolutely. Love all you guys, and I love you too, Steve.
I love you too, Kevin, and everyone out there. We'll be in touch.
Okay.
Bye.